It was supposed to be a normal Saturday afternoon at a crowded restaurant in downtown Chicago. Plates clattered, people laughed, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. No one expected that a quiet moment at one table would change the lives of everyone who witnessed it. But sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the loudest echoes. And on that afternoon, 3 simple words spoken calmly by a tired single dad would stop an entire room in silence. Before we begin, if you enjoy heartwarming stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be, make sure to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to Kind Truth Stories, where real emotions and powerful lessons come to life. David Parker pushed open the glass door of the restaurant while holding his daughter's small hand. The cold wind from the street followed them in, making the little girl shiver slightly. "Are you hungry, Lily?" he asked gently. The 6-year-old nodded with a shy smile. "Starving." David chuckled softly. It had been a long week. As a single dad working 2 jobs, life wasn't easy. But moments like this simple dinners with Lily made everything worth it. They found a small table near the window. Lily climbed into her seat and looked around with wide, curious eyes. The restaurant was fancy compared to the places they usually visited. David checked the menu carefully. His eyes paused on the prices. He had counted his money before coming in. They could afford something simple. "That grilled cheese looks good, right?" he said to Lily. She nodded happily. "And fries?" "Fries too," he smiled. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. But then the door opened again. A tall young woman walked inside, dressed elegantly. Her coat alone probably cost more than David's monthly rent. People glanced at her as she passed. Her name was Emily Carter. Most people in the city knew that name. She was the only daughter of tech billionaire Jonathan Carter. News articles often described her as the future leader of a billion-dollar empire. But today, Emily looked different. She looked tired. Not physically tired but emotionally drained, like someone carrying invisible weight. She quietly walked toward the back of the restaurant, where a large table was reserved for her group. Several well-dressed people were already sitting there. David noticed nothing special. To him, she was just another customer. Lily, however, kept staring. "Daddy," she whispered, "that lady looks sad." David glanced briefly. Emily was standing near her table, listening as someone across from her spoke sharply. Even from a distance, the tension was obvious. "You embarrassed the company yesterday," one of the men said loudly. Another added, "If you're going to run Carter Tech someday, you need to stop making emotional decisions." Emily stood quietly, absorbing every word. "I just thought helping them was the right thing to do," she replied softly. "That's not how business works," someone snapped. Several people nearby pretended not to listen, but the uncomfortable energy spread across the room. Emily looked down at the table. For the first time in her life, she felt completely alone in a crowded place. Then Lily suddenly stood up from her seat. "Daddy, I want to give her my cookie." David blinked in surprise. "You want to what?" "She looks like she needs it," Lily said simply. David hesitated. He glanced again toward the group. They were still talking harshly. Emily stood silently among them. Lily was already holding the cookie from her kid's meal. "Kindness doesn't wait," she said proudly, repeating something David often told her. David sighed softly. "Well, all right." They walked toward the big table. No one noticed them at first. Then Lily placed the cookie gently in front of Emily. The entire table went silent. Emily looked down in confusion. "Hi," Lily said with a bright smile. "You look sad." "Cookies help." Several people at the table looked irritated. "Excuse me," one man said coldly. "This is a private table." David immediately stepped forward calmly. "She's with me." His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. Just calm. But those 3 words somehow changed the entire moment. Emily looked at the small cookie sitting in front of her. Her eyes began to water. For years, people treated her like a business asset, a billionaire's daughter, a future CEO. But not like a human being. And here was a little girl who simply saw someone sad. Nothing else. No money. No reputation. Just a person. Emily knelt down beside Lily. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome," Lily replied. "My dad says kindness is free." David scratched the back of his head awkwardly. "Well, we should get back to our table." But Emily stopped him. "Wait." She looked at the group around her table. "I think I need a moment." Without another word, she walked with David and Lily back to their small table near the window. The people at the large table watched in disbelief. Emily Carter, the billionaire heiress, was now sitting at a tiny table with a single dad and his daughter. David looked nervous. "You don't have to sit here," he said. Emily smiled softly. "I want to." Lily pushed the fries toward her. "Fries help too." Emily laughed, a real laugh she hadn't felt in months. They talked for a while. Not about money. Not about business. Just about life. David told her about working 2 jobs. About raising Lily alone after his wife passed away 3 years earlier. About how kindness was the one thing he wanted Lily to grow up believing in. Emily listened quietly. For the first time in years, someone wasn't asking her for anything. They weren't trying to impress her. They weren't judging her decisions. They were simply being kind. After a while, Emily looked at David. "You know, yesterday I approved a project to help struggling neighborhoods get free internet access." David nodded. "That sounds like a good thing." "The board hated it," Emily said. "They said it doesn't make enough profit." Lily tilted her head. "But it helps people." Emily smiled sadly. "Exactly." David took a sip of water before speaking. "You know, when Lily's mom was sick, a stranger once paid our hospital parking fees for a whole week." Emily listened carefully. "I never found out who they were," David continued. "But that kindness carried me through the hardest week of my life." He looked at Lily. "That's why I teach her kindness matters. Even when the world says it doesn't." Emily sat quietly. Something inside her shifted. For years she had tried to balance compassion and corporate expectations. Maybe she had been looking at the problem the wrong way. Maybe kindness wasn't weakness. Maybe it was leadership. After dinner, Emily stood up. "I should go back to my table," she said. Lily hugged her suddenly. "Don't be sad anymore." Emily hugged her back tightly. "I'll try." Then she walked back to the large table. Everyone looked at her expectantly. Emily sat down.